Boba Guys and Tea People USA. Boba Guys has locations in San Francisco and in New York. I think it's 5 or 6 locations.
Technically 7 right now, and within a week will be 8. End of the year will be 11. So I'd rather just say that. There's always something in our business. Always something.
And I read that some people call Boba Guys the Phil's coffee of tea. So that was fascinating to me and exciting. So yeah, please give him a hand and please put your computers away.
This is really gonna go on the internet? All right, I'll keep it kind of rated R. Because you can tell I'm an entrepreneur. We don't really follow a lot of rules. And you can tell from the title slide that this is, I think, going to be slightly different from some of the other talks you guys hear. Mainly because I've watched some of the videos. I'm a 2-time alum at Chau. Go Bears. So I was undergrad. I just found a slide. It's a little self-indulgent, but I was here. I did Mass Comm Soc and then Haas undergrad, and then I came back for my MBA. So I'm 04 in 2011. So it's really cool to be back. I generally actually get brought to do marketing. Oh, I know Haley. And so this is one of the few times I actually talk about one of my favorite topics other than marketing, which is entrepreneurship. And just by show of hands, who here is in Haas, number one? I just want to know how many business kind of like, okay. And then who is a sophomore and freshman? And sophomore and freshman. So everybody else, okay, cool. And then lastly, who is thinking about being an entrepreneur? Okay, so majority of people are thinking, this probably is a class to vet that, I hope, or scare you away from it, right? So the goal of today is really talking about what I've learned. I don't think I'm a great entrepreneur. I think I'm an okay entrepreneur. I don't have a slide about it, but I didn't spend most of my life in corporate America. I was actually, out of Haas, I worked for Target. I was in a marketing trainee. I had a choice, actually. This is a little bit less of entrepreneurship, but I was almost going to do Bain or Target. So I was a consulting person or a marketing track person, and I chose marketing. And it was about a $15,000 difference, and I never looked back. I love marketing. But then I was a corporate person. I came back, I did CPG, we call it consumer product goods. I was a brand manager. I worked at Clorox, I worked at Leapfrog. I ran essentially mini companies. So I did that until I fell in love with entrepreneurship. So I don't know if I'm the typical choice for an entrepreneur talk, because everything I'm going to tell you is maybe more cautious, more calculated, and more corporate than what you'd think an entrepreneur would sound like. But I'm an ex-corporate guy, so I apologize in advance. But I also swear a lot, and I'm going to apologize. If it's going on the internet, I cuss a lot. That's a perk of being an entrepreneur. So this is kind of our story. I'm going to start with kind of like what every entrepreneur's favorite slide is. It's about themselves. But really, I think it's to set the stage, because I think some of the things I'll talk about are a little controversial and or polarizing. Or maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm going to ask you guys if they aren't. So the idea is to kind of set the context. The first thing is that what Tasting Table, it's a major food website. This is 2011. A lot of people said the Boba revolution starts now, and the future of Boba lies with them. Do I have to explain what Boba is, by the way? This is Cal. You guys should know what Boba is, right? If you haven't, I don't know where you guys have been living. So Boba, for those who don't know exactly what it is, because you've probably seen it, haven't tried it, it's essentially milk tea. Think of milk and tea, just like coffee and milk, but with tapioca. Tapioca, think of like gummy bears consistency, and it's like a dessert. But the way we have it, and we are known for artisanal or like adult boba, we generally have people that are my age. I'm 34, and my age drinking this kind of stuff. You can be healthier. A lot of matcha drinks, that's what we're known for, are also pretty healthy if you kind of lower the sweetness. So we kind of are a drink for everyone, and that is why I think some people in Wall Street or people who have almost invested in us have all said that we are likely some form of the next Phil's or next Blue Bottle. So we're flattered. It's their words, not mine. The other thing is that NPR actually said, it's my favorite one, is Boba Guys isn't just bringing boba to foodie Americans, it's also reimagining it for longtime lovers. So I'm going to tell you, we're not doing something that's like rocket science. You're talking to a food entrepreneur here. I don't think any food entrepreneur should say or will ever say they've invented something. Food is food. It's been around for so long. So what we're doing generally is more derivative stuff, right? So I didn't invent the Fitbit. I didn't invent Facebook. I'm not that kind of entrepreneur. So that's why my talk's going to be a little different. Just so you know our positioning, most people will say that we're probably one of the leaders and we kind of are the influencers in the industry. So people will think of us kind of like the Phil's and Blue Bottle in the world for coffee. We're kind of in the Boba world. And you probably know this, but if you don't, there's more people who drink boba than coffee in Asia, right? There's 1 billion people, everybody drinks boba, not everybody drinks coffee. So at the end of the day, boba or milk tea is just a drink. For me, it was just cultural, and I'll explain how we got there later. So we started in 2011, and we started as a pop-up. So does everybody know what a pop-up is? Yeah? Okay, so if you guys are, who wants to be a food entrepreneur? All right, let me, not many. Good, because you're the only, you're going to be a smart one or a fool, I don't know. It's not for the money. Food entrepreneurs and maybe entertainment entrepreneurs, you don't do for the money, you do for the love. So I was a corporate guy, as I said. In 2011, I was working, I think at Clorox actually at the time, and we were doing a pop-up. And in that pop-up, for those who don't know, it's like saying a space or a business inside a business. And we started a Boba Guys pop-up in a ramen restaurant, our friend's restaurant called Ken Ramen. This is in Mission District in San Francisco. And there's a lot of ties later on, which I'll get to, on how it was pretty unique and fortunate that we were in the Mission. And we didn't work. We didn't do this full time until 2014. So that's 3.5 years where I did essentially 90 hours a week. I'm not gonna lie, it sucked. The real breaking point, people are like, oh, when did you quit? My wife didn't actually tell me when to quit. It was actually my best friend. My best friend didn't see me for like maybe 3 months. And he literally, the only words he said that day was like, he walked up to me, he didn't see me for a while. We hung out, and the first words of it goes, oh, you look like shit. That's literally all I said. And then I think for the first 5 minutes, I was taken back because I was burning a candle on both ends. It was not a healthy kind of like lifestyle. And I was always the person who was like, I turned down venture capital. When I was in grad school here, MBA, I was in venture capital fellowship. I thought I was going to be a consultant or a venture capitalist, and in the end I fell back in love with food because that's how I grew up. And I say like, well, I'm not going to be working 100 hours in venture capital. Little did I know I'd still be working 90, 100 hours, but just doing Clorox or Leapfrog and Boba Guys. So again, it's not for the faint of heart, which is kind of what this is about. Number 2, we have just stores. I just keep that usually. The next one is something that I think what Vogue said. My co-founder, he actually is from UT. If you don't know, there's a little bit of a history between Cal and UT. I don't like UT at all. We are the best public school in the nation, just for the record. So even better than Michigan. So when we founded the company, we wanted to just do something cool, and I'll explain what that means later. But we just found a good partnership, and again, a little bit of luck in there, and I'll explain how that works. And then, so I'm gonna read the quote. It says, Chau and my friend Ben, we were credited with perhaps jump-starting the better boba trend, currently sweeping better parts of the country. If you've been to LA, Alfred Tea, we know Josh and Jordan. If you've been to Portland, that's Erica Tea Bar. If you've been to Milk and Tea in New York, most people will say we kind of started this trend. When I were Boba Guys in Taiwan, I source our own tea. Most of the young millennial nation knows who we are, because we're these 2 American kids making boba for the masses. So I'm not saying that to kind of be all like, you know, bragging or anything, but I do want you guys to know it took years to even get close to this. So we only just got, that Vogue article came out last month. 6 years we finally got on Vogue. That was not the magazine we thought we'd be on, but it was kind of cool nonetheless. You gotta know, food entrepreneurship is the least sexy of all the entrepreneurships. Your hands look like a mess. You wash a lot of dishes. They look like shit. If you're in fashion, entertainment, you at least run into a lot of celebrities and have fun stuff. Food, you're washing a lot of dishes. Today, I picked up poop, swear to God. So I picked up poop today because somebody pooped in our, Haley's been there in the Hayes Valley store. Somebody pooped there. I don't know how that happened. It was warm, it was live, and it was not good. So that's not sexy. I guess this is the first time I just realized that this might be the first time it would be on the internet of roughly how much we're worth. And I'll say how we got there. But we're self-funded. We control 100% of the company. We do have, you know, some loans from friends and stuff. And in a way, there's like some shared equity, but essentially we own all of it. The only 2 people on the board is my co-founder and I. And that's pretty rare because if you compare us to Phil, Shake Shack, or any of those other guys at 10 stores, which we would be still self-funded, it's unheard of. it actually hasn't happened, most likely, well, people will say, since Starbucks. So if you ask me what my dream is, I do probably want to be like an In-N-Out. That's part of my dream. And then we turned down two Silicon Valley VCs. We would have been on the front page of Mashable, but there was a lot of strings attached. I don't want to get into it. That's probably in the Q&A. But we did turn down essentially two offers. One $1.5 million offer. This was about a year and a half ago. And then another $2 million offer for about 20% and 25% of the company. This was 1.5 to 2 years ago. Now we've grown a lot since then. So our valuation has gone up. If you want to get into startup theory, I'll explain how evaluations happen, but it's essentially determined by term sheets. All right, so lastly, this is kind of where the last setup. Our mission is to bridge culture, so everything we do is about bringing cultures together. So when Ben and I started, if you can't tell, I'm Asian, so but I grew up in Jersey. I'm a diehard Mets fan, so I grew up in Jersey, and my co-founder, he grew up in Texas, rural Texas, Wharton, Texas, if you know from Texas. And Wharton is like 2 hours, I think, north of Houston. But his dad he was like a manager at a plastics factory. And my parents were, at the time, running a Chinese restaurant in Jersey. And it was kind of a little bit of a podunk town. It was Woodbridge, New Jersey. You can Google it. It's a township, which I don't think in California we know what that is. But it's like a group of small places. But it's a township. And we just wanted to make, in our world, the Western world, which is, when I went to Berkeley, people drank boba, but a lot of my friends who aren't Asian didn't know what it was. I'm dating myself, but people didn't know 15 years ago. They were like, oh, only Asian people drink it. And most likely people will now say, especially in the Bay Area and in New York City, we're the ones making it popular, right? So what we're trying to say is there's a higher order of thinking here. So that's a setup, and that's probably the most I'll ever talk about Boba Guys at once today. So I apologize. Thanks for listening. Oh yeah, we're gonna check out. You see, I saw people have been saying, "You guys are on Vice. Check out Vice. We're coming out with a whole episode on 4/20. It's easy to remember. We're on Bon Appetit. Okay, so first mistake in that Vogue article, you'll see it on the internet. Boba is Taiwanese slang for boobs. Unfortunately, I said that like halfway through the interview, and I thought it was already going long, and somehow that was the first quote they quote. So. And it is true though. So I think the first lesson is just be careful what you say, especially early on. I should have learned that after 6 years of this, but I obviously didn't. So, but it's all about positioning. So that's another theme that we'll talk about. So does anybody have any kind of high-level ideas of what they want to hear about entrepreneurship? Can you just shout it out? I just want to see if I'm about to begin my real talk. Does anybody have any, like, what's your goal? Like what's a question you would have?
With scaling, it seems like you were probably expanding faster than your revenue was.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so how do you scale? How do you hold it together?
How do you differentiate the product with so many like substitutes?
Yeah, that's a great one. How do you positioning? Yeah, is a huge deal.
Just the evolution from the idea to actually making something.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Ideation.
Going off of that side, like what can you say and when can you say it?
Yep. Yep. That's a good one. Okay. A couple more.
How do you work with a partner without stepping on each other's toes all the time?
That's a very good one. Haley knows both of us, and it's definitely. Thank goodness I found a good co-founder. But that's a big topic.
What criteria you look at when deciding whether to accept or reject funding?
Oh, that's a really good one. That's a good one for Q&A. That's its own topic.
Could you talk about your transition from pop-up to brick and mortar and expansion, how you validated the idea that it's like feasible to do it?
Perfect. Okay, great. So we have a really good cross-section that I'll kind of refer back to, but it seems like you guys like more of the operational topics. Good, because I kind of had some of them broad, so I'll dig into a couple of them deeper so that you guys can hear the operational life stories about that and how it actually happened. So the first kind of slide is kind of the money slide. So the money slide is really about what I think. There's no book on this. There's a lot of these books on entrepreneurship. I read a lot of them. They all say kind of the same thing, right? So what I think you guys want to know is what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. I can tell you what it's going to be like, but what it feels like is a different story. And I suck at a lot of things, but one thing that I'm able to convey is feeling. So I hope you guys will feel what it's like to be an entrepreneur, at least in this 40-minute period. So the start mentality is number one I want to talk about. It's having the right mindset and DNA to be an entrepreneur. The second thing is having passion. And what I define that as making sure that you have enough fuel to keep you going, getting through rough times. Keep you going through rough times. And the third one is just people. I'm going to talk about network effects and who you know and all that kind of stuff and how I think it affects entrepreneurship. That's surround yourself with amazing people who give you inspiration. And then lastly, everybody says this, but there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of luck involved. And I'll kind of talk about how I perceive luck, and if you can, I don't know, we'll leave it up to you guys. See if you can control it. My argument is yes, you can control your luck. Give yourself options and create opportunities for magic to happen. So I hope that's going to take you guys on a fun ride in the next 25 minutes. All right, so starter mentality, number one. The first one I will talk about, and I'll start with the myth, because I think a lot of things, if I were sitting in your shoes, and I didn't take an entrepreneur class, but I did have like the speaker series that I remember, and I remember sitting in these kind of these seats. Maybe not this. I've never taken a class in this room, so this room's a little weird to me. But the idea of being able to just make it applicable. So I'm going to try and make it applicable. Number one is, who thinks that entrepreneurs are big risk takers? You guys all do, right? Huh? I think it's a big myth, and I don't think I'm the only one. I do not believe that, and you'll see who we run in circles with. The people we all know, we know a lot of well-known entrepreneurs. Haley knows a lot of them too. We have a very similar network. I don't believe that. And a lot of my friends who are very successful entrepreneurs probably don't believe that either. I asked. That's how we got here. This is not the first time I've actually said it. But here's a book. There's a book by Adam Grant. He's a professor at Wharton. Have you ever heard of him? He wrote this book called Give and Take. He wrote another book called Originals, both New York Times bestseller. He's a Wharton professor, despite them being a private school, but he's a very good professor. He's very, very good at articulating social kind of mindset and trends. And one of his books, Originals, is one of my favorite books. And in it, he has this statistic about a study, that entrepreneurs who kept their day jobs had 33% chance lower odds of failure than those who quit. And most people would be like, well, yeah, you cherry-picked the stat. I could see that. But I think what the stat kind of illustrates is that this. It doesn't mean that you're going to be successful if you have a day job and you do it like the way I did it or some of my friends did it. But I will say, if you're an entrepreneur who flies by the seat of your pants, or you think you are that kind of person, generally speaking, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Most good entrepreneurs are pretty calculated. One of my people I've been just texting right before I came here, Dan Lin, he founded Lin Pictures and Lego Studios. He does all the Lego movies. He's a great guy. He actually recommended me this book. I told him I'm using his book in my talk today. And even he was kind of, he's at Harvard Business School and all this kind of stuff. I hear all these crazy stories of where people didn't know it was going to be a sure thing, and so they kind of hedged into it. I'm not a fan of hedging, but rarely does an entrepreneur just go right into it. They kind of like ease into it. So my kind of take is more like this. People who move the world forward with original ideas are rarely paragons of conviction and commitment. The most successful originals are not daredevils who leap before they look. They are the ones who reluctantly tiptoe to the edge of the cliff, calculate the rate of descent, triple check their parachutes, and set up a safety net at the bottom just in case. So if that doesn't say that entrepreneurs are cautious, I don't know what illustrates that. And I can tell you, if you can't tell, even from my corporate career and my co-founder's corporate career and probably other speakers that you guys are having come here, they're pretty calculated people. And I don't want to scare you guys. I don't think you guys should have to go into corporate career. But I will say, if you're the kind of person that's like, I'm going to wing it, and you don't really study, you're not the kind of person that just prepares for anything, I don't know if entrepreneur is for you. And I actually think that's my next one, I think. It is. Not everyone is built for entrepreneurship. A lot of people confuse incompetence and for their road to entrepreneurship. They're like, I don't believe in corporate America. I cannot stay at my job. For some reason, I can't listen to people, and they're like, I need to be an entrepreneur. fuck no, that's like bullshit. That's like, there's no way that that actually is true. There's no way. Every entrepreneur that I feel like I've met is way more about measurement, because it's a journey. It's a long, real like marathon. And you know, I'm just starting. I'm in like my first mile, and it's 26 miles. With people who fly by the seat of their pants and just go after shit, it is almost impossible. You might strike gold. I'm not gonna say that maybe one person in this room, and you're gonna probably send me an email 20 years later, so I'm gonna regret it. You're gonna be like, I remember your talk, and you said, first of all, fuck you, and that's bullshit, and then you said that it was impossible, and guess what, I'm a billionaire. Maybe that's true. I probably put the odds that it's not. I probably bet money. So I'm pretty sure it's very unlikely. Not to say that you're not the 1%. You guys are Haas, and you're in Berkeley, and when you know what they say about hot shots and all this stuff, you're very overconfident. I was too. But I do think you have to be pretty realistic. So you're like, well, then what is a startup mentality? How do I really, really know? So there's this idea. Have you heard of Malcolm Gladwell? Yeah, he wrote this book called, he wrote many books, but he wrote Outliers. Then he wrote this book called, he wrote Tipping Point and Blink, which is the first two, and then Outliers and David and Goliath, right? So a lot of people say he's pseudo-social theory, but I'm just going to say an idea that he talked about. He was talking about risk-taking, very similar to Adam Grant. He said this, it's actually not in a book, it's actually from a series of interviews and shorts that he wrote. And he writes for the New Yorker. And he said, a lot of people think entrepreneurship is about social risk. I mean, it's about risk. But it's not the risk that you think of, it's about social risk. So he says that most entrepreneurs, they are very calculated, as I've been saying. But the ones that are really good, for example, Sam Walton, who founded Walmart, here's an example. They actually are just social risk takers. So if you don't know, Sam Walton, I worked for Walmart for 4 years, so don't boo me, but I did, and that's why I'm starting my own company that saves the world. So at Walmart, this is true, on the first day they give you kind of this book called Made in America, and you make you watch this video. And again, I was there for 4 years, and I do sincerely respect them. And you learn about Sam Walton, the founder. How he made his money, or how he started, he was actually a very good manager, I think at Woolworth, which was another kind of retailer chain. And he wanted to open his first retail store, which you call nowadays Walmart, but it was called Walton 5 and Dime back then in Arkansas. Guess how he raised the money? He asked $100,000 from his father-in-law. So how much social risk is that to be like, hey, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, nice to meet you, hi Mr., I forget the last name of the main name, but how are you treating my daughter, and where the fuck is my $100,000? That's every Christmas and Thanksgiving for a really, really, really long time. That's crazy social risk. And I'm not gonna lie, for me there's a little bit of a personal thing too. When I had two jobs, I was at Clorox, and everybody at Clorox, if you don't know in brand management, everyone's all we're all business school guys. So Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Kellogg, and UCLA. And they're all great schools, there's no better or worse, I think we're very similar, cut from the same cloth. But I had this Boba guys on the side. And I could tell you, when people are going partying and they're going out for drinks or they're going to Napa for the weekend, I was working at my shop. And I don't know, I don't think I have you can tell I don't really think very, I'm not like this, I think, a crazy ego guy. I think I know what people think of me. But it still hurts. It still hurt when people are like, well, how's that boba shop? Yeah, how's that boba shop? And it was like maybe 200 people a day, at most. $1,000. It was no money. And I'm making like more than 6 figures after, in my day job. I almost had people just look at me like they're insane. I was insane. And I'm not gonna lie, I think it was very tough for me for a while. But at the same time, it kind of like, I hit a switch within a month. I was just like, fuck them. Zero fucks, and they were my good friends, so if you're watching, sorry guys, but I did say fuck you in my mind. So I was like, I have zero fucks about that. You need the zero fucks mentality, and I say this a lot. The zero fucks mentality is literally, I do understand what you're saying to me, but it doesn't change who I am. I take into account, I hear your feedback, but that doesn't change my identity, it doesn't change my self-worth. Give me feedback, say, hey Andrew, you look like shit or something, but if you truly believe in me, You gotta say, I know a couple of my friends think I'm a little crazy, but I have a lot of my friends who think I'm doing something great. And of course, I did get feedback from the public with Boba Guys. If you came to us back then, we had lines out the door as a pop-up from the first day. So I knew we had something special. I wasn't like that crazy, but it was much more about the zero fucks. So hopefully that makes sense. I think a lot of people are just really scared, but I think there's this thing about risk. I think the way you think about it is social risk, yes. Crazy skydiving kind of risk, no. So that's the first takeaway. Second one is about passion. You can fake it till you make it. I can't tell you, as a food entrepreneur, how many people tell me, hey Andrew, I want to start a poke bowl concept. I fucking hate poke bowls. It's gonna drop the ocean. But everybody comes to me with, I want to start a boba shop, a poke bowl shop, a banh mi shop, name a shop that's a street food and make a lot of money. That's literally what I get asked maybe once a week. I don't mean this to be like condescending or anything, but I think it's a little simplistic. I don't think that's just how it works. Because first of all, you're not the only person who's thought of that. And number two, it seems very like money, it's like a money grab. Oh, poke's hot, let's overfish and kill everybody and make money. It's only gonna last for a year. It's not, you can't make a business off of a year. But a lot of people say I can fake it. So what I'm gonna argue is that I actually think, this is less controversial, but I think it's still true, that most people, you gotta do something you love, and you always hear that's a very generic term. But I do think that you cannot fake it at all. Why? Because in the competitive world, especially with the internet, let's say you want to make this product where, I'm talking about food, consumer stuff. Let's just say you come up with a business-to-business product where, I don't know, you have one projector talk to the other projector, and you have to convince the school to buy this little device that does that. And there's probably other people in the world that have something somewhat similar, maybe not exactly the same, somewhat similar. And when they're getting sold, you think if you're just a money grabber and you're doing it because you don't like it and you don't like technology, I think most people can see right through that sales tactic. And you rarely can do something without sales, right? So I just don't think they're gonna see right through it. So my point is, while I can sneakily turn off my phone, is that passion is the fuel that keeps you going when times get tough. Also, most consumers can see right through soulless motives. So Boba Guys, if you don't know, in our manual, it's actually one of the first pages. We say, Boba Guys, a company with a soul. So Haley, who's known us for a while, I pretty much talk about Boba Guys as the first true company with a soul. It's also the name Boba Guys, which is personified as a brand, because it's really my co-founder and I. So a lot of our DNA is obviously versions of ourselves. So we got very fortunate in that we were able to do that. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, you can do that in whatever you guys do. You can, if you guys even do like your own laundry service company or the next social network, there's probably parts of yourself in the DNA. Everybody knows, Zuckerberg's story. Mark. I mean, there's a lot of insider stuff. I realized I can't even share it because it's being recorded. But I'll just say there's a lot of great stories where the reason he made it is a personal decision. So just like you guys in this room, it's going to be a personal decision on why you chose it. Because if you're a good entrepreneur, you honestly can do anything. But it's generally because you have a passion about one specific topic or area. And so what I mean by the fuel, though, is that if you guys have hard times, which I'm pretty sure you're going to have hard times. For the one food person, you're going to have a lot of hard times because someone's going to call sick, and who's going to pick up shit in the courtyard? You. And I learned how to fix toilets a lot too. And if you're doing a tech startup, if it breaks, or your programmer, your developer leaves the country, and your kernel's destroyed or whatever, you can't even fix it, well, what are you going to do? So passion is going to get you through those all-nighters. Passion is going to get you to, right after this, I have to go to a gala in San Francisco. It's going to get me on pretty much going to a gala after 7 a.m. meetings to now. But I'm passionate. If you can't tell, I'm extroverted. So I actually like talking about this kind of stuff. And I don't have this opportunity, so first of all, it's also an honor to even be here because this is a special place. So that is what keeps you going. And a little trick that I always generally tell people is that it also helps to make your business serve a higher purpose. For Boba Guys, our mission, it's on our website, it's almost in every interview I do, it's about bridging cultures. I said that earlier when I started. For Patagonia, which is my favorite company, it's about using business to solve the environmental crisis. So if you guys have a need, and this is Haas, and this is Berkeley, so we're all kind of hippie-ish here. So we all want to save the world some way, especially if you take Robert Reich's class, you'll really want to save the world. So what you want to do is you want to create a meaning for your business. Most people will be like, my business solves X. I don't know, any top of the mind needs out there that we need, like socks that don't smell, or like, I don't know. One is, I think, don't steal this idea, but actually you can take it, just give the money back to Haas. I think the future in food business is automation. Unfortunately it is, and much like every industry, and I think when people order into food, they're going to be ordering off of these kiosks and robots. I think there's very few of those companies, just so you know, and because of that, I'm too busy doing my own company, but there would be a great company that would get started by making these kiosks that would be self-ordering menus. So something like that, that's what I think the world's headed. Now, if I just said, I want to solve a need of making menus and ordering in retail restaurants easier, I don't think, that's not a sexy kind of mission. Not really, it'll get you there, but I don't even know who's going to recruit and work for you. You see a list on Craigslist, I can't wait to change lives of ordering processing. Like it's not attractive. I think what people will talk about likely, if they made a mission statement out of it is, I'm thinking on the spot, so I apologize if it's kind of crude or rough, but it's going to be more like the mission of this company, we'll call it, C135 Industries. It will be in order to bring a human touch to in an automated world. It's probably what the mission is going to be. You're going to have to create robots out of nowhere, and you want to create a human touch. So maybe the UI and this stuff is designed to make it look like a face. I don't know, something like that. So, but that's how you draw things in. That's where you tap into your passion. And so, Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, he obviously was an environmentalist. If you don't know his story, if you wear Patagonia, he made these carabiners or these rock climbing equipment first. And then now people know him for those puffy jackets, but really and some of the technical wear. But he started just making these little tools because he just climbed all the time. But that turned into a just giant company, right? Everybody knows Nike story, Phil Knight's story, or even Zuckerberg was kind of playing off of something he had seen. Actually, some came out of Berkeley. Hotternaut was my generation at Berkeley. So there's, if you don't even know hotternaut.com, very bad, you should never do it, but you rate people's looks. So that's another way of thinking about business or entrepreneurship. I'll tell you a quick anecdote. So in our world, there was a time where I do have a column in Huffington Post. I haven't written for a while because I want to. I'm too busy right now. But I actually want to share with you what really happened. I told the public this was a couple years ago, but we shut down Boba Guys as a pop-up. But we actually were intending to never come back. My corporate career and my co-founder's corporate career was kind of taking off, and it just did really well. So I didn't really think I needed to do Boba Guys. I didn't go to get my MBA to do this. It's a waste of $120,000. It's an opportunity cost. So I think at the end of the day, we pretty much shut it down. The public didn't know that at the time. And what happened was I was jogging in the Embarcadero in San Francisco, and I ran into one of the loyal customers. And she basically said, "Oh yeah, I hear you're building a store." They were thinking that we were building a store this whole time, but we weren't. And she basically said, what you did, you represented, for us, it was about Asian America. You basically got everyday people to drink boba, and in the 20 years at the time, or 25 years that it's been around, no one has been able to do that until you guys came along. And then we saw these emails from people saying, hey, when are you guys coming back from the pop-up? Are you guys opening a store, like a real store? And we got slews. I keep them all. They're in my inbox. They're all tagged. There's 150 of them. And that's what I mean. Our business was built by the people. That passion kept me going. And I still had to work. When I turned on the store, I still had to work 80, 90 hours a week for another 2 years. I still had to do it. But that kept me going. That was enough fuel to get me through the hard times. So would I do it all over again? I think I would. I really would. I missed a lot of baby showers, missed a lot of birthdays, a lot of weddings, a lot of fun nights that I see on Instagram. But I do think it was worth it in the end. So the second last one, these will be faster. People first. a lot of people say it's all about networking. It's the size of your network. You need to know a lot of people. Size matters. Does not matter. I don't want to go there. But yeah, does not matter. So, in fact, it's actually it's all about knowing the right people. And it's about the right people relevant to what you want to do. So if you're thinking about that idea here, and you guys want practical stuff, right? So you're like, well, when did you know Boba Guys was a thing? Well, honestly, I didn't know it was a thing because I didn't know that many people my age that did a restaurant other than my parents. So I literally had to find a place first and to see if people would come to this place. And if they did it long enough, eventually, if the question I think somebody was like, how did you know when to make it a real store? It was when I got tired of moving stuff in and out. It was really a very simple decision. I was tired of being a pop-up. And that tiredness just was like, well, how much does it cost to actually get my own thing? And we're like 100K. I'm like, okay, hey, Ben, 50K? I'll put 50K, you put 50K. And that's how Boba Guys started. To this day, that's actually how much we invested in the whole company. 50K each turned into 25, 30 million. So, and yeah, don't ask me for donations just yet. I donate to the school, but I don't know if I can do personal ones. But, so this is not really about name dropping. I do not want this slide to be about that, but I want you to tell you some stories behind all this because you want some tangible things. So these are real stories. Some people you might even recognize. So at the top left is Robert and Stefan. Robert actually is a Cal alum. He is an ex-Googler and he was a small business owner. He owned Voyager, he owned a lot of these small businesses. And we met him randomly at his pop-up. He was a ramen restaurant pop-up. And we met him at his pop-up. And I know it's kind of weird. It's a small world, and pop-ups are just like non-committal, but that's what it was like then. And then he was like, "Hey, you should come. We're gonna build a real ramen restaurant now." We knew him for about a year, and then he eventually said, "We're gonna build a restaurant." And then we had this idea, and we eventually said, "Hey, can we pop up in your restaurant?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's pay it forward." And that's literally how it was. In 1 minute, it changed. We had no place, and we had a place. And then we ended up meeting this Albert Strauss, if you know Strauss Organic Milk. He is very, I mean, other than this being on the internet, he usually hides. He doesn't like being in public. And so we met him, and we met all these food industries. So we got this food industry, and all we are is just a boba shop. So we were like, well, we started meeting relevant people, that's what I'm saying. Then what happened was one of these that were legitimate allowed us to sponsor, actually what tonight is, the Center for Asian American Media Arts Gala. We sponsored all these talks. That's Alan Yang. If you don't know him, he's the co-founder and co-producer, of Master of None with Aziz. And we got into that network. We're like, oh crap, how did that happen to that? And you're like, first of all, entertainment has nothing to do with food too much, but it allowed us to start telling our story better and influence. And then that led to, somebody saw that, and we're actually spokespeople for Nissan. So if you watched an Asian American channel or speak bilingual Chinese or English, we were the spokespeople for Nissan, the Nissan Rogue. So it's very embarrassing because it's a very cheesy Asian commercial, but my mom likes it a lot. And that led us to meet and now know Eddie Wong. If you don't know Eddie, that's fresh off the boat, his book, right? Eddie was actually the prior year person of the Nissan commercial. The Nissan commercial is about Nissan Next Generation. Sorry to plug them, but they're a great company. And they actually chose us because the headquarters of Nissan, guess where it is? Nashville. I don't know why, it was in Nashville. Or I think it's still in Nashville. And we actually had a pop-up in Nashville. I don't know if you knew that. We had a pop-up in Nashville. It was because our first store manager moved there and said, I want to do a pop-up. And we're like, okay, I hope we meet Nicole Kidman and, Keith Urban, but that was the only thing that we thought, and sure enough, that led to Nissan being, us being on Nissan's radar. And then that's Dan Lin. Through Eddie and the Hollywood industries, we met all these people in entertainment, which allowed us to tell our story, ended up on, Vice or Food Network or whatever. And then somebody saw that, this guy named Bill Amata, and nominated us for the White House Council. So I sat on the White House Council for Asian Pacific Islanders, because somebody saw that we were representing APIs in this commercial, Asian Pacific Islanders, and said, hey, I hear you guys are pretty vocal and opinionated about government and stuff. I think you guys should help the White House. This is before the White House got destroyed. It is Obama, right? And then we do still sit on the council, we're nonpartisan. And then that led us to meeting the mayor and then all these other different awards. So it's not about who you know. I don't have that big of a network, but one influencer led to another, which led to another, and led to another. So if you guys, how does it make sense to you guys? If you guys run into someone and you want to do food, food, I know that. So, and you meet me, and then you hang around me, like Haley's a good one. Haley knows everybody in the industry, and she's not even finished with school because she's hanging around all these food influencers, and she just runs into them at our shop, at other shops, at her events that she organizes, and her network keeps on growing. So if anything, she's just gonna mooch off of this network, and you're gonna know all these people. So that's just how it works in real life, and I don't think they teach that in school. But it's these chance encounters that lead to something bigger. But you have to make yourself available. But if it's not relevant, if I had all the tech contacts, my tech contacts won't do any of this. And I do know some tech entrepreneurs, but they're mostly all dead ends when it comes to this stuff. So you have to make sure that your network is very relevant if you want to be a good entrepreneur. So last one is shit ton of luck. And that's really just saying luck is out of control. Sometimes it's just not meant to be. I disagree with that. You guys are in Haas. You guys are in Berkeley. You guys are pretty cool for a reason. It was not by accident that some people will say, oh, there was a reader who had a happy day. They were eating a jelly donut and they read my essay and they said, yes, this person belongs to Berkeley. I don't think that's bullshit too. I was a reader too myself, and I could tell you certain people you just know. Like you might be at that borderline, but you're still going to end up in okay school. You'll end up at like, I don't know. I don't want to diss on Stanford. I was going to say Stanford, but okay, so I do think you can improve your chances simply by setting yourself up for options. Great quote by the Ice-T Arnold Palmer guy. He's also a famous golfer. It's a funny thing. The more I practice, the luckier I get. That's. I hope you guys. That's an obvious thing, right? But the more you put yourself out there, the more chances that you are exposed to great things. I think people are like, well, that's lucky for you to say. Well, you happen to meet all these people. No, I didn't. If you know, I mean, again, I'm saying because I know Haley a little bit, and some of you guys, you ask like, how did you actually make it? The grinding part, especially for Berkeley students, is going to be easy. I do think. You guys know how to grind. You guys, you're reading, no offense to, I know you said you're in classics, but some classics, reading Aristotle, I'm like, it blows my mind. This is like, I cannot read this, I gotta put down my book. But you're gonna grind through it, and it's because of what you have to do. Or Astro 10, or parts of Astro 10, I was like, man, I thought Phil Dinkel was funny, but he's not that funny. So like, that's the kind of stuff that you just have to get through it. I don't think that's gonna be your worry. Your worry is, can you put yourself out there that you let this magic happen? And that's these chance meetings, these networking events. So a group is going to Napa, and there's like one shuttle, and that shuttle can only fit 12 people. And it just so happens that one of those 12 people happens to be the biggest VC in Sand Hill Road. That's the shit that happens. That's actually how we got one of our deals, just through a chance meeting. Because their daughter happened to like Boba guys. It wasn't because of like something special, and she came to the store when I happened to be there. That was all it was. And who knew that this person was such a well-known VC? So I'll give you some examples, tangible. Finding a co-founder over at ping pong, our kind of lore, a lot of people know, is that we're at Timbuktu, we're at this company that makes these bags, really awesome bags, and I was a general manager, and Ben was a creative director, my co-founder, and we're the only two Asian guys there, right? So of course we did the most natural thing in a bag company with two Asian guys who play ping pong. So we literally bonded over ping pong over and over for 2 years. And we eventually found out that we were good friends. And we are good friends, but that we worked well together. And doubles partners, we loved foosball too. And it wasn't like luck that we met. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I do think what really happened was that we put ourselves out there. Because there's a lot of other things I could have done in the time inside the headquarters at Timbuktu. But I just chose to play ping pong with the other Asian dude. And nobody else like play ping pong with us, so we're kind of stuck in the corner. Another one is securing our first pop-up. I think I told you this quick story about that. That was kind of lucky in that we randomly met him, but we continued to talk to him as he was building his ramen restaurant, as I said, for a year. And only when he was ready to build his ramen restaurant, we just said, hey, we had this crazy idea of doing artisanal boba. And he's like, oh, you could pop him up in mine. And I'm like, yeah, that's what could we? And that's what happened. You had to put yourself out there. There was luck in that we met, but we just asked and it happened. And then when we were on the TV thing, we were going viral. There was something we did that went viral. We were about to open in New York. That we had these crazy lines in New York, and it went viral. And then they saw on the internet, and they were like, wow, these guys are maybe having potential to be like a big thing. And let's put them and let's do some research. And they shot us an email, and we went through the audition process, and we ended up being on the main campaign commercial. Bill Amata, he was the appointee he's one of the 30 people from the Obama administration. He literally saw us on the front page Kickstarter, said those guys are cool, the video's kind of cool. We could have made a shitty video, which a lot of people at Kickstarter do, but we just like, we'll put a little more extra effort into it. We made a good video. Little did I know that the video he liked so much. He's from LA. He actually just threw in the maximum amount, I think it was like $1,000, just to do it. And we didn't talk to him for 2 years. He never redeemed his award. If you know Kickstarter, you get these perks. Never redeemed it. Out of nowhere, about 8 months ago, he was like, hey, Andrew Bin, we've never met, but I was wondering if you could come to LA for something. We went to LA, we're like, what is this? And he was like, we thought he wanted to pick up this award. And that award, the thing was like a black card. Black card is basically free boba for life. And that's what I thought he was trying to be like, okay, we got his black card. When we met him, he goes, oh, it's a little private, but at the time it was private. He was like, I sit on the White House Council, and we did our homework, so we knew he was on that. But he sits on a lot of things too. And he goes, how would you like to help out? That's literally it. And we're like, what, this whole time? He's like, how did we even come up? He goes like, oh, I remember your Kickstarter from 2.5 years ago. I was like, what? It's like, it's the craziest story, but he did it. And then the last one was taking Boba to the next level. Did we know T? You know, T-Von and all the tea was going to, David's tea. Did we know 5 years ago that tea was going to be a trend? Not really. Did we know that artisanal food and slow food movement, all that was going to be a mega trend? Nah, not really. I mean, you could maybe guess it. And then did we know that Asian street food, obviously with the banh mi's and the all these crazy things right now? Did we know that? No, I didn't. But we just happened to be in the middle of them. That was luck. But once we saw it happen, we obviously rode the wave. So you just want to put yourselves out there. So at the end, I just want to end with this. And so what we want basically have, and you could read the kind of long story, is that my parents were immigrants, but my dad in particular was a freedom swimmer. And what that is if you know southern China, it's Guangzhou, which is like Canton. If you know anybody who speaks Cantonese, it's like southern China. And he swam to what was free at the time, the British colony of Hong Kong. It's about 10 hours. Freedom swimmers, they say there was between 40 to 80,000 of them. And he swam. And a lot of them drowned. They say about half of them died. A lot of them get caught. My dad was caught 3 times. This was his 4th trip, and he actually made it. And then he became to the U.S. as a refugee. He actually worked at Mandarin Garden on Shattuck in Berkeley. True story. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Oh, if you don't know, that's me. They say I don't age. Asians don't age. So then the thing is that what was really, really interesting was, it's a little personal though. I don't want to be awkward, but my mom and I fought when I was in Berkeley. Like fight, it's like Asian fighting, which is don't talk, but not. Like it's just like fighting. And we were fighting because I switched from, I came here as a pre-med. I really thought I was going to be a doctor. And we just fought like crazy. And my mom, she's Taiwanese, so she's a little bit of a tiger mom. I love her mom, especially to this day, but back then, don't think she understood me. And I was going to do something that you can't even translate it. It's called sociology, you know? So I had to translate that, study people. My mom's like, what is that? So I changed my major from MCB to sociology. And then we got in huge fights of what I wanted to do. And one time I went home, and then my dad said, you know, I know your mom aren't talking really, but I thought about something. You know, in China, I don't know if you know the Communist Revolution, which is what he escaped, you get the eldest, which is what he was, you get taken away from your families many times. You either farm, join the army, or you kind of work for the state. My dad was a farmer, because he was in this farm region, and he was kind of a well-built person, so they wanted him to just be on the farm. And that's what he escaped. And so he goes, I didn't flee China, you know, and do all of that and risk getting injured or dying to come to the United States, the land of the free, to tell my son that he has to be a doctor. I know that sounds very stereotypical nowadays, especially after fresh off the boat, and Eddie was a lawyer too. But at the end of the day, I know that story relates to many people. It has nothing to do with Asian at this point. It has to do with just the American dream. But my dad was really adamant in saying, you know, whatever happens with your mom, you got to know that I personally think, like, you need to be free. And that's what we came here for. You need to do what you love. And so there's a lot of people that think it's controversial to say that. It's a luxury. I don't think that's a luxury. I think you could choose what you love. So I think you could do what you love. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, I hope you guys aren't the delusional ones that are like, I'm gonna make this crazy product and I'm gonna do it no matter what. I hope you vetted that with some of the frameworks that I gave. But at the end of the day, I want you guys to feel what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And I hope I did that a little bit. Because being an entrepreneur is really tough. There's a lot of failure, a lot of disappointment. But at the end of the day, like, it's really rewarding, especially with this story. So I just want to thank you guys for just hearing that. And if you have any questions, I know I went a little long, so let me know.
But yeah, you're free to go. Make sure you sign into the sign-in sheet.
Where's the sign-in sheet?
Where's the sign-in sheet?